I think we're live. Maybe. Yep. All right, we are live. This is Stone Guy 223 filling in this evening for Never Enough Ammo. He's having some issues, so I'm hosting for him this evening. Gonna be kind of random, but I'm gonna start it off with something maybe a little controversial, but
And we're all on edge waiting because he won't tell us what it is.
but first let's do some quick introductions. We got Ballistic Expansion on my far left.
What's up, guys?
Next to him is Mr. Chris. I'm not sure what your channel name is.
Oh, Mystical Knight.
Mystical Knight. All right, sorry about that. And then we got Edge 4006. And next to him we got Tack Daddy, the Tack Daddy.
What is up?
Nathan's Armory.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I like Edge's new little montage. Is that the Loch Ness Monster?
I was going to say, he's got some pretty new artwork going there.
And then Mr. Cork 71.
Howdy, folks.
So I had to let a couple more people filter in before so we only got like 20 people watching.
Edge, you do know that there's software that can handle curves now, right?
Curves. You like that, huh? Nah, this is I'm working with somebody. He's helping me out with my logo. It's just kind of a rough draft. But
rough would be what I would call it.
What is the significance of the 4006?
Just an old number that came with the name a long time ago. Company I used to run.
At least he switched his intro up a little bit, so we don't have a 20-minute intro to his videos anymore.
You know, people told me that I'm sorry, I missed the old intro. Go back. So I'm like, all right.
No,
but no. I'm working with another guy. He's offered to help me out, and he's going to work me on my logo and some other ideas. I got some things I want to do. Maybe get into some patches and stuff, and do a trailer.
So I have a quick announcement.
Good.
Today I got my very first Sig Sauer.
Oh. Did you shoot your out yet?
Man, congrats.
Now I'm going to go shoot it tomorrow on my day off.
Did you shoot your out yet?
Oh, that came just in time.
Yeah, and I got the mags in from Academy, the right order this time. So I got 3 mags and a new gun.
Which model did you get?
3 mags?
2022 9mm.
The shooter, man. It's a good gun.
Two-tone.
Oh, the night sights on it.
I don't know. I haven't fiddled with it since it got dark.
You haven't turned off the lights yet? I would have done that like at least 10 times already.
I mean, I got home, I had to throw it in the gun safe, and then wife got home right afterwards, had to go out to dinner.
So you take it to dinner, you're there at the table, like, all right, and order it, and like, okay, pull out your gun, you start playing with it. Yeah, nice, that's really nice. Anyway.
All right, well, I guess I'll just throw it out there, and then if anybody comes in late and wants to know, they can go back and watch the video. So here it is. This is what I'm thinking. Because the other night we were talking about constitutional rights, you know, and versus states' rights, and that got pretty heated. Well, not really heated. It was kind of Marco made it very interesting. Let's just leave it at that.
Was he drunk?
But oh god, yeah, it was quite funny to try to get it through to him, but it did get me thinking because we were talking constitutional right, and we kept saying constitutional right, and then I can't remember if it was someone on the panel or someone in the chat that threw up the comment as to it's not a constitutional right, it's a God-given right guaranteed to us by the Constitution. And that got me thinking, because there's a lot of countries other than the US of A, America, that there's a lot of countries that believe in our God, and I'm just going to say the God, or a Christian God. Let's forget about all the Hindus and Muslims and And
Yeah, let's just get rid of all the people.
Yeah,
That believe
let's throw out the Muslims, considering there's more of them than us.
exactly. Yeah, so I'm just concentrating on just what we as Westerners recognize
snake handlers.
as the Christian God, right?
include Baptists.
Well, unless you're agnostic.
Right. Well, dude, what the fuck? We're not talking about that. Obviously, that wouldn't apply if you're agnostic or atheist. I'm talking about what? Yeah, Baptist, Catholics, Presbyterian, Episcopalian.
Believe in the cross and Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we
Christian
Technically, the
scientists?
Jews believe in the same God we do, just a different way.
All right. So I'm getting off. The point is what we believe in is God. Okay, that's our God-given right. So I want to just contain it to our culture as we know it, and let's. If you want to,
doesn't that mean right as a human being?
Well, that's exactly what I'm going with this because
Natural rights.
Because if you're saying a God-given right, then you're telling me that right as a human being to any person that may be living in Europe or Spain or Germany, and they don't have the right to carry firearms because they don't have a constitution. So is it truly a God-given right, or is it in fact just a constitutional right because the United States of America has the Constitution?
It's a God-given right that they don't have anymore because their rulers took it away.
It's a natural right of self-defense.
Right.
But that's only defined by the Constitution. That's
No.
Actually,
Defined by nature.
What do you hold on? What do you mean defined by nature? Who defined it in nature?
Your God, if you want to call it that. I'm not into that.
Is it in the Bible?
No.
I'm not into the Bible. I'm not into any of that. But a natural right, everything will defend itself.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Go watch nature.
It's a
Go watch the
universal
nature
right.
channel.
An inalienable right.
Hold on. You got the right to defend yourself. Sure, if you want to revert it back to a natural right, a predator versus prey kind of scenario. But as far as firearms go, the only thing that guarantees us a right to carry a firearm is the Constitution. It's not
It doesn't actually carry the firearm. Our Constitution is protection against a tyrannical government.
Dude, well, quit splitting hairs. You know what I mean. The right to keep and bear arms.
Hold on.
Yes.
Again, if I wanted to take on the risk of getting caught with said firearm and I did not have a concealed carry permit, I got the right to carry it all day long. You don't catch me, you don't find me, fuck you. No offense.
Yeah, the Constitution doesn't determine whether you can't or can't. It determines whether you can or cannot legally.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to. Thank you for the help.
I was listening to Marco's stuff the other night, and in a way I agree with him. The Constitution actually defines a certain number of rights that it gives the people. It also sets everything else to the states. But it does define constitutional rights.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I just want to draw the line and say that it is a constitutional right. I believe that 100%. But to say it's a God-given right or a right of man, I think I just can't get on board with that because there's millions and billions of other people that aren't guaranteed that same right under God if they're in a different country that doesn't have a constitution.
I wonder if it's in the NBA Constitution that was brought up this week.
The what?
The NBA Constitution, National Basketball Association.
Oh shit!
When they started talking about that in terms of, again, the racist stuff that went on last week, and they were saying, well, in the NBA Constitution, there's some rules. I was like, wait a second. You mean the rule book? Why are we calling it a constitution?
I totally missed that. Yeah, I would not have. I can't.
Well, it was according to the NBA. They were saying according to the NBA Constitution, the most they could fine the guy for being a racist was $2.5 million.
I'm still at odds with that whole decision. I don't see what he does in his own house and wherever is his business, nobody else's. I don't care how they find out about it.
He has the right to say or think what he wants to, think, but he also has, people have the right to judge him based upon that.
Well, there's a difference between judging him and forcing him out of out of an organization or forcing
Actually, it's when you if you live in a homeowners association, neighborhood, can you sit there and put a propane tank in the middle of your yard?
That's comparing apples and oranges, because if you're in a
no, it's not, because
you've agreed to a contract or certain restrictions when you entered into that contract of that homeowners association. There's no contract saying this guy can't be racist.
Yes, I think there is.
There is with the NBA.
In the NBA.
Part of their agreement is that
part of the Constitution.
Yes, part of their Constitution, or you want to call it there for the NBA, where owners can vote another owner out.
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with the fact
they're forced to sell a team.
But that shouldn't just be because he made a racist comment. He's got the right. He's got the First Amendment right to free speech, and if he says what he.
That's against the government again, not against an individual.
Right. You're confusing. Like he is a member of the NBA.
I heard today on the radio that Michael Jordan came out as all racist against whites.
And again,
where's the difference?
I'm sure they found a comment or two of him in the past. What's crazy?
Well, it's totally a double standard when someone of a race says something against a white person. It's not held to the same standards, and I understand that to a certain extent, because no one's denying the atrocities we perpetrated against African Americans, and I mean, obviously that the whole slavery thing was ridiculously wrong. Well, I say we as a nation, not we as individuals, because we all know that by this point in time, none of us, not even our grandfathers were, are alive or took part in that.
My family wasn't around during the slave owner time.
There's another part of this story that again, you're not going to read in the paper. The funny part is, you're talking about an 81-year-old guy that's banging a chick that's 50 years younger than him. She's got to be crazy.
Oh, she's a gold digging.
She's got 2 Ferraris and a Bentley out of it, and the reason it was recorded was because he gave her full permission to record everything, because he's forgetful, because he's 81 years old. And a billionaire, by the way.
And by the way, she has a record.
They valued his team at $700 million. He bought the team for $17 million.
I was gonna say, I don't need the Clippers worth that much. They suck, or they did in the past.
Even the worst NBA team's worth a lot of money. But here's the deal: is he is a member of an association of owners that are in the NBA. As that, he gets to choose to be a member of that, or they can kick him out of the league and his team too. So they could kick him out if they wanted to. So he agrees to certain bylaws as one of the many owners. And if they all get together and vote him out because of his behavior or for some other reason, which is highly unheard of in their close-knit circle of rich guy friends, they can do that. He's part of a group that withholds that right. Doesn't have anything to do with his freedom of speech. Has to do with if the rest of them get together and say, you're a big enough a-hole to make us look bad, we can kick you out of the league.
I've heard of some people saying that even people, conservatives and Democrats, and them even saying that they didn't like the fact, if it would have been an open public speech where you just blatantly blast people by saying stupid shit, but this was a private comment. I'm not saying I'm excusing it or whatever. I'm okay with it, but that's what they were saying, is they had a problem with it because it was a private conversation between 2 people, and yeah, you said she had permission to record it and do what she wants with it, but that's the problem. Is there was just some expected privacy in that conversation, at least by this point, and then she goes and basically puts him on full blast by publishing it. And on top of that, she's his wife, or separate, even if they are separated. There is privacy.
Okay, so I understand now what you're saying about the contract he enters into with the NBA. So it's not. I get it now. It's not a free speech.
He can say whatever he wants to according to the First Amendment, but that doesn't mean that they have to give him the platform to say it.
Well, they didn't give him a platform. This was a private conversation.
Exactly. But someone.
Yeah, but you have a certain ethical line and a certain moral code that you have to stick to. You can't own an NBA team and get out on a corner and hold up a stick.
I guess to a certain extent, but still, I just think it's ridiculous that we hold these people to such a high standard when they're just people. You know, regardless if they're NBA stars or Olympic athletes or whoever.
If he was arrested? Would it have been different if he was arrested by the FBI for dog fighting, but was looking at waiting a year till it went to trial?
Well, the thing was,
they should wait the year to kick him out.
There's a lot of substance to what he said that offended a lot of people. But if he would have said, I only like chicks with big tits," and then he would have offended all the women with little titties or something like that, you know, out there. I mean, it's the context is way different, mind you, and the impact it had, obviously. But
and granted that what he said, you could obviously read between the lines, but you know, he never outright said anything derogatory or malicious. I mean, obviously, he didn't say anything.
He didn't.
No, he never said the N-word. He never said, you know, he never said anything really degrading. He made it evident that he wasn't a fan of
your black friends to the game with you.
Yeah, like I said, you could read between the lines and know what he meant, but it's not like he out and out went on a tyrant about nappy-headed porch monkeys or something.
I don't know what you mean by that isn't offensive. Don't bring your black friends to the game. That's pretty offensive.
No.
She can bring her Asian or a Mexican or white friends, but she can't bring her black friends.
Well, obviously we all know what he meant by it, but like I said,
what
it's
he
not
meant
like
by it was don't bring black people. Just because he didn't use racial slurs doesn't make it less of an offensive statement.
Don't bring your N friends to the game is the same as don't bring your black friends to the game.
He almost did it worse because he totally avoided using any bad words, but did everything else that could have shown he was racist. So he did what was very hard to do in our world.
He spoke
not use the
politically
no-no
correct.
words and still become up as a racist.
He was politically correct about it. And that's the big problem in this country today. Everybody is being politically correct about something that it's like training wheels on a bicycle. You got to take it off sooner or later. You can't leave them on there. Nobody learns to live in this society.
Tommy Hilfiger did the same thing when he said I remember I said something about he didn't like a bunch of Mexicans wearing his clothing line. He didn't appreciate it whatsoever. I forget what minority he insulted by that, but he flat out called them out on it. And it was just kind of like, oh, don't buy his products and so on. And
well, that was 90% of his demographic.
Well, I guess, but
at least for the resale market.
I was gonna say all that shit shows up at the fucking swap meets anyway.
Yeah, and then
all right, so let's bring it back a little bit to the initial topic.
I wanted to say something on the initial topic there, Stone Guy.
All right, good. What's up?
Okay, so when the guys who wrote the Constitution were all writing the Federalist Papers and discussing these topics, one of the things they talked about was natural rights. You have the natural right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not happiness, but to try to be happy. And so this idea of natural rights was kind of a, something that was relatively new in their world because kings didn't attest to it.
No, hold on, let me ask you something real quick because you just said, that's one thing, a phrase that sticks out in my head is the right, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Where is it defined other than the Constitution that you have a right to keep and bear arms and you say defend yourself? Obviously, that's a
right. And what I'm saying is there's the Federalist Papers where you get the in-depth understanding of the way their logic works, and then the Constitution is they're writing laws based on their logical train of thought. So the Second Amendment is part of the feeling that they had that you have the right to defend yourself. Therefore, you should have the right to keep and bear arms to keep your country in check and to defend your own life, because you have the right to defend your own life. Whereas a king would say you don't. If he decides you and your class need to be killed, he can send his soldiers in to kill you because he's the king. That's where the difference is in thought pattern. And that's what they knew. That's why they had to put in certain rules.
Right, and I think a lot of people today say things like, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that I have a right to defend myself, because the piece of paper that they're referring to is the only document that does say that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What document is that? Where is that written?
In the Bill of Rights.
No, I'm saying other than the Constitution in the Bill of Rights. Where was it originally defined that you have the right to defend yourself?
It was in the original 20 Commandments, 10 of which were broken because they were stone tablets and they fell.
The authors of the Constitution wrote things they called the Federalist Papers, which were articles they put into newspapers and books, and they kind of discussed their philosophies and the way they think in them. And this, the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness came down from the Hobbes. It came from Hobbes.
But
originally came up with that.
But
it was a philosopher.
You're still talking people.
We're talking a philosophy, yes.
Yeah, people that initiated the thought process or the theory of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, the ability to defend yourself. So there again, you're still talking man.
And they knew that one of the problems with the government is they tried to take these rights from you because it was power over your life, power to kill you at any arbitrary time is a great power a government can have over you, or a king, or anyone who's in control over you. So they specifically were talking about no king should have that power. That has to be taken away from societies, but they knew societies want to impose.
So all these other countries and dictatorships across the world, every other human being that was born on this earth has a God-given right to keep and bear arms, but because they're in that other country, they're not allowed to.
No, they have a God-given right to defend themselves.
Exactly. They have the right to self-defense. That's a natural right, God-given right, whatever you want to call it. That's the universal law.
Well, obviously, if you have fists, you have the right to defend yourself.
Exactly.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Is what tools
all we're talking about
is
tools.
Right. What tools you're allowed to use.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Our country is the only one to define it with the Constitution and define it for the right to keep and bear arms.
You're right, and it's because our founding fathers simply said, you have the right to defend your life. Therefore, it makes sense that you should have the right to keep and bear arms to defend your life with. And no other country has bothered to stick that in their constitution. You're right.
They were in the middle of a gun battle, war, at the time that they were writing these things. I mean, guns were one of their best forms of self-defense.
Well, and the king was trying to take away their arms from their militias and from the common people to help keep rebellion down. It was a way to suppress people. So they recognized the necessity to keep arms to keep your government honest.
Right. Well, and the reason I brought this up is I'm just, obviously, you know me, I'm all for firearms in the Second Amendment. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate and kind of posing the question as maybe an anti-gunner would ask it, or maybe an anti-constitutionalist that would try to debate the God-given right or the constitutional argument here. So it's kind of nice to be able to have, to talk about it and learn different aspects of.
Here's another thing is they wrote into the Constitution other things into the Bill of Rights, like you're not supposed to be thrown into jail and have the key thrown away without having a trial by your peers, whereas a king could do that. And that's why when they come up with a law like they did a couple years ago where they say even if you're considered a terrorist on U.S. soil and you're a U.S. citizen, we can detain you indefinitely, that totally violates that part of the Constitution, because you have to have a trial by a jury of your peers to have.
Well, yeah, that's
for
where
life.
That freaking
the NDAA.
No, well, not that. What's the?
It doesn't matter how they slipped it in. They put it in part of the Military Defense Act.
What's the thing in the after 9/11?
It's
the
not
Homeland
part
Security.
It's not part of the Patriot Act. It's not part of the Patriot Act. No.
It's not part of the Patriot Act?
No, it was introduced. It was introduced a couple years ago as a rider to the military appropriations bill. Correct.
It's part of the NDAA. Gets pushed through at the end of every year. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. It's pretty simple. But what they did put into it recently was, again, what is it?
Indefinite detention of terrorists, even if they're U.S. citizens on U.S. soil.
Yeah, and you don't have the right to an attorney. All they have to do is deem you a terrorist in the states.
Now, see, that's pretty fucking scary because
and again, who can deem you? Who can deem you? That's kind of out there. But
well, that's what I mean.
Attorney General,
who are they? Who are they to
military,
make that determination?
Whoever the powers that be pushed down.
So if someone has a hard on for you, you know, they could easily just, you know, deem you a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
Well, think about. Let's kind of flip this to the people on the Bundy Ranch, because I've heard rumors, and this is pure speculation. I'm not saying this is true, but I've heard speculation that they're going to try to identify and go after.
Dude, they're already identified. Let's be real.
Yeah, to go after people and serve warrants on people that were there at the Bundy Ranch. So, you know, if you take the words of our what that dipshit called us, domestic tourist, you know,
the domestic tourists.
Yeah, the domestic tourists. So if they could deem those guys, anybody at the Bundy Ranch, if they could say those are domestic terrorists because they interfered with law enforcement or whatever their justification is, they could theoretically detain hundreds of people indefinitely. That's a scary thought.
They could do that, but they won't do that.
Did you say the Bundy Ranch or the Bundy Ranch?
The Bundy Ranch.
I want to go to the Bundy Ranch.
The you don't got enough money, Edge. Anyway,
I'll take credit with the first Bunny Ranch joke that was said during the whole thing, by the way. But go ahead.
So I was going to say because this is already such a public thing, they have to take them, serve warrants, and then have it be public trials, because it would be way too much all over the internet and be challenged. You see, they don't want the actual NDAA writer challenged until they can get away with it. Do you see what I'm saying? If they pulled Cliven Bundy in and held him as a domestic terrorist indefinitely, it would be taken to the Supreme Court. They would reverse the law and release him.
Hey, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't a few states and a few counties and a few districts basically said, no, we're not dealing with that rider?
There were some people who took that rider and challenged it, took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And here's the great part. The Supreme Court said, you're absolutely right, this rider does not apply to you three people who brought the suit. They didn't throw the law out. They just said it doesn't apply to you who challenged it.
Yeah, we need to get those.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Flips.
Yeah, so they need that. That's why I'm saying they won't burn it on a public case. They may vanish someone who's not important though at some point.
Well, what's scary is, let's just say Occupy gets big again, or anything like that.
That's why they have it. They have it for the point when if they ever have to dictate martial law.
Right. They can literally round people up and make them disappear.
Round people up and detain them without trial. That's why they want it.
Yeah.
And the truth is, you know, our authors of the Constitution knew that you had certain rights that were given to you in natural, but that governments would try to take them away. So they tried to put stopgap measures in to make sure that that couldn't happen. So,
but these crazy evil people have gotten past it, basically.
Right. They've had 250 years to rewrite the purpose and the laws and to try to get it past it, to do a workaround.
Yeah, I just think that in general people don't accept the fact that there's good people and bad people on the planet, and that a lot of the bad people are in positions of power, and it just, again, gets to a point that that's craziness. If you were to take the Founding Fathers and get a bunch of them in a room and say, oh, by the way, check out this NDAA thing that we just passed, they would say that completely goes against everything we just spent building. If somehow you could do the Bill and Ted Adventure time machine, they would fucking roll, dude. They would literally just be like, this is the exact opposite of what we're trying to build here. And that's where we are today.
Yeah.
It's scary to me. I mean, to me, it's, again, what is the situation that's going to Why is that even in writing right now? Why is it even in writing that all of a sudden your government can take you away and trump all of your, again, God-given rights and all of your constitutional rights that allow you to trial by jury, all that stuff?
And the term domestic terrorist, that law is so vague.
Oh yeah,
They can arrest almost anybody under that law.
Right. Right. They literally could say stuff like, we're gonna ban firearms, and anyone that's promoting firearms is a terrorist at this point.
You have to look at the situation in the world when the Constitution was written, as opposed to what's going on now. Everything relates to the current time. Times change.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me read this one little thing. The Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effect against unreasonable searches and seizures. Why does the NSA, why do they read all my emails? If I have the Fourth Amendment protecting my papers and my effects from unreasonable search and seizure, why do they read every email in this country of every person?
Because they have the Patriot Act and
because they have the ability
to away our freedom with that act.
Well, I'm just saying.
Changed.
Well, because they had the ability to, and they didn't think no one would find out.
The NSA's initial charter was for domestic.
Times haven't changed. I still don't think they should be reading my stuff without a reason.
Yeah, if I remember right, the NSA's charter initially was for keep an eye on foreign elements, not its own domestic.
Well, I think that's where the Patriot Act gave them a little leadway, a little carte blanche with.
If they were tracking bad guys, foreigners, and they got a lead that these foreigners were sending moi emails, or I was sending emails to them, then they could go to a judge and say, we need to check Nathan's emails because he's emailing terrorists. The fact that they just read everyone's emails across the board, searching everything.
Well, and it's scanned for
constitutional rights.
It's scanned for, and I'm sure there's some kind of algorithm in place to do this.
For certain things.
Here's the other thing that makes no sense to me from a crime prevention point of view. If they really have all this information, how are they not busting every drug dealer, every bad person, every corrupt senator? If they have all the information and you can listen to anything and you know everything, it's not too hard to connect dots.
Well, the reason is because all those senators, particular senators and congressmen, are chairmen of boards.
Well,
I
think
what do you call them? The freaking groups that they have to control shit, and you don't want to definitely piss in their fucking Cheerios.
Well, I think they appropriate the money.
Yeah. Not only that, not only do they have a vested interest monetarily, but I think the bigger issue is just it would be just an overwhelming undertaking of assets and resources if they truly tried to, go after everybody they could, incriminate via email and phone message and different things like that, because realistically, it is probably overwhelming. I mean, when they turn on their little scanner or however they do it, they're probably hearing shit tenfold of, people that they could send to jail. But
on top of that, if you're in the know like that, it's a 50-50 scale. You know about them, but then they know about what you're doing too, and it's this hand, basically like I know much dirt as you know about me as much as I know about you, and it's like it's just an even playing field for them. So nothing's really done outside of other stuff that's done for the public to watch.
Interesting conversation. I don't know if this is staying on topic or getting away from it, and if it is, pull me back on. But Colion Noir did a thing about fear recently, his recent video.
The fear mongering, yeah.
And I look at the NSA stuff, and I look at what's going on at the airports still today. And you're telling me again, with the technology that they have, with the pre-screening that goes on in Israel, with all of the other ways that people look at a place like Israel, they have safe air flight. And by the way, since 9/11, which is again how many years ago now?
12.
When was the last time we had a problem in an airport
13.
after security?
13, yeah.
When was it? Is there really a reason that there are 10-year-old children and 5-year-old children having their asses patted down by people because they think they could have a bomb? It's fucking ridiculous.
They could just be pedophiles.
Well, oh, geez, don't go there. But no, the whole point is it's kind of that old adage, the one bad apple that spoils the bunch, because unfortunately the response to such a tragedy like that is for to make these feel-good laws that appease the general population, in the political, on the political side, the constituents, the politicians are able to say, well, look, we passed this law, and now we're, we X-ray everybody in the airport and we make them take their shoes off, and so people feel
now you're
safer.
Yeah, did you hear about the kid who jumped the fence and then jumped onto a wheel well and went across the country?
Oh, yeah, like a 10-year-old or something that
Did he go to Hawaii?
Yep.
And he's passed out, and he's lucky he didn't die?
Yeah, exactly. They basically said that he should not have survived, but he did. He passed out once they got to a certain altitude. And
I didn't hear about that one, but did you hear about the one that actually just a kid boarded the flight and flew to Vegas, I think, and then it wasn't until the stewardess did a head count and she had one extra passenger, and this kid was like 12 years old and he freaking hopped a flight to Vegas.
Oh, dude, that's easy, man. Just you're small, just get in line with the rest of the people and be like, "Oh, my mommy's up there."
Exactly, you could do it.
Dude, I could do that if I was 12.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases of people getting in those wheel wells, and it happens more than you think. And then they usually die, though. Usually they open up and they fall out. Or
It's a self-fulfilling. It's natural selection at its best.
Oxygen deprivation gets them.
Yeah, I can't imagine that happening more than we hear about.
Of course, don't most airplanes.
Think about being 16 and being like, yes, I'm gonna climb this tire and get up in this thing on this giant fuselage that's gonna go 30,000 feet into the air.
That's so dumb.
It really is.
Like,
I'm thinking you'd be getting squashed by the wheel coming up.
No, there's more. There's a lot of space. There's some space in there. Not a lot, but there's some.
All right, so Nathan, let's get back to what we were talking about, because that was a good point. You were on a roll there.
I forgot what I was talking about.
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, speaking to the airport, everything, and other countries. So right after 9/11, I went on my honeymoon about 6 months afterwards, right? Go down to the Bahamas. Our little puddle jumper lands from Florida. I look out. There's an Air Jamaica flight unloading ahead of us. So we get off the plane. I find my luggage. I go up and get in line, and this is in the Bahamas. Finally, I get up to the guy, and I put my luggage down and set it down and open it up, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You're checking luggage." And he goes, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "Florida." And he goes, "Oh, get your bag and get out of here." They didn't want to search my bag. They wanted to search every Jamaican's bag in the bunch because they were profiling. They knew I didn't come out of Florida with anything contraband.
Yeah. Well,
they wanted to search
profiling.
Every Jamaican's bag.
Profiling's like law enforcement 101. I mean, unfortunately,
we can't do that. That's why my 70-year-old parents get searched every time they go to the airport.
I travel with my my father-in-law, and he has a condition where he has to bring his own food in cans. And we got through the Miami airport one time, and they never even checked his backpack that's got, again, 6 cans of liquid, syringes, wiring for the timer for the food thing. Literally got through, and when I alerted them to the fact that we got through and they didn't do it, you should have seen what it set off. I did a video about it, and I put it up for like 2 days, and I was like, I got to get this down because I don't want to be bothered by the TSA the next time I travel. But it was a fuck show. I mean, it was unbelievable to me what gets through. And if you look it up, the guns get through all the time still.
All right, I'm gonna say this. The reason we don't profile is because they're afraid of lawsuits.
Yeah.
As soon as they start profiling, then the airlines are gonna get sued. The airports are gonna get sued.
Who doesn't profile?
Yeah, no, you can't. You know
they got to make it look like they don't.
You
The
know what they
TSA
do?
has to search people they know.
Yeah, then they
Then they can search the people they think look suspicious.
And
They'll search the 90-year-old woman or the 2-year-old kid.
Has anyone ever looked into the pre-screening thing where you can actually pre-screen?
Well, check this out. In Israel, they Tel Aviv airport, they basically mad dog everybody there. They're looking at you, and they do it to everybody and anybody they basically profile the shit out of everybody. And they're like, if they see any kind of weird gestures, anything that kind of gives them a signal, like, I don't know, this guy's just out of sync or whatever, or the stereotypical cool customer. They sit there and ask them questions, make them kind of like Germany style Nazi. Like they go to them and they put the pressure on everybody, and that's how they weed people out from Tel Aviv from doing all that shit. They profile like a mother, but not just like profiling and okay, who looks like a terrorist? Because I guess you're in the Middle East, everybody's wearing kind of garb that looks similar. If
Yeah,
you
they all
will.
look like terrorists to me too, Edge.
Exactly, but they just put a lot of pressure tactics on people, intimidation.
Edge,
And
I think they're all pre-screened prior, like literally before they even show up to the airport. The authorities know who's traveling that day. And
Oh yeah, they're on list for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I mean, again, no experience personal over there. It's what I heard that when they were talking about the whole profiling thing, they're like, and they never have a problem, and their ratio to catching or having security issues at that airport are very, very small compared to any other airport because they're that aggressive. And it seems to be working just fine, and nobody ever cries, about they singled me out. Yeah, but they did catch you, right? Oh,
We're the only country that profiles, that doesn't profile, that tries to make it look like we don't profile. It's because our litigation is outrageous. In other countries, you bring a case and they're going to be like, no, they're there for security. They can do whatever they want as long as they are being secure.
we don't profile till you hit the judge.
So let's get back a little bit. What do we think, with kind of touching on last night's topic in a way, with the smart gun and the smart gun technology? Is that, being that they're not denying you the ability to own a firearm, they're just making you jump through tremendous hoops and creating more restrictions. Is that, would you venture to say that that's unconstitutional?
I think of the smart gun the same way as micro stamping, of all the things that they're trying to push. They're not doing it for a safety reason. They're doing it to make it harder on us to try to cut down on the number of gun owners, plain and simple. They don't care about us having a watch.
It's no different than women voting or, putting restrictions on that type of thing. Same thing. They're controlling something they're not supposed to be controlling.
Well, and I think we found out, and we did research for Marco, if you're out there, that voting is not a constitutional right.
Sure it is. Wasn't it voted in as one of the later amendments when women are allowed to vote and when blacks are allowed to vote?
Those were in the
Constitution. Might have been layered in, but it wasn't.
Like in the 20s. My daughter was studying it earlier this week.
Yeah, now, is it restricting the Second Amendment under a law that's still allowing you to keep and bear arms? You just have to be a certain one.
Yeah.
The NFA, got rid of machine guns.
It's just, it's the same thing. They're just legislating into a corner.
Exactly.
They can tell you can only have guns that can't shoot, that are only pink. But they can restrict it to the point that you can't have them. That's still restrictions. It's infringement.
Right. At what point do they say that, okay, you can only have 22 caliber guns, you can't be shooting these 45s and these 9s anymore, and then you can only have revolvers, and then you can't have semi-automatic weapons, and now you have to have the smart gun technology. That's the problem, is they're legislating these things in to take away our options to raise the prices. It's not to help anything. It's not going to serve any purpose except to try to limit our Second Amendment rights.
I'll say something controversial here. This is where all you NRA members should be pissed at your NRA membership, because, in my opinion, they should have gotten suppressors taken care of already. They should have gotten select fire taken care of already.
Yeah, I agree.
Proactive is fucking crazy to me. I was a former member. I'm not a current. Well, maybe I am still paid up for this year or something, but like that. But I'm done with them, man. It's all talk.
Well, the NRA back in the day, they promoted the National Firearms Act. They didn't fight it. They actually agreed with it.
Well,
there's a difference between the NRA and what's the other one? The ILA.
The NRA, ILA.
Yeah, the ILA is the one that's the more political.
'cause I don't think-
And the NRA
It-
NRA years and years ago was only focused on hunting.
Right.
Since then, they've changed their position, and the board members have changed.
You gotta also remember too that the NRA is a business, so they want a certain amount of fear in this country, so it drives membership.
Well, the board is run by the industry.
I think the ASA is a really good organization fighting for suppressors.
Yeah, but the only thing is I think it's been, I forget who said it in the past, but it's just the thing is that they're the biggest organization, so you can donate to the smallest organization, and of course, keep them alive. But effectiveness, and as far as the share of effectiveness, the NRA, nobody can really quiet them. They have a big pool. People listen to them, and Congress, and the Senate. They do get a little weary or a little scared about what are they going to do? Are they going to
Again, to me, they're damage control at this point, and they're not proactive, and it's.
Hopefully,
You're right. They're a reactive group. They're not being proactive to push more rights.
So
Right.
go vote for a third party and waste your vote.
All right, so real quick, let me introduce T.S. Wood just joined us for people that are going to be listening on the podcast. Wood.
Oh shit! I'm leaving.
Yeah. Does this bother anybody else that we can literally have this conversation like 4 nights a week on like 8 different chats, and it's actually a legitimate discussion? Does that scare anybody else?
Yes, that's what I was trying to. That was my whole point. This shit's fucking crazy. This is not the America that I was taught about.
Nope.
It's just not. And it's definitely not the one that they make you feel like when you go visit Philadelphia.
Well, I wouldn't visit Philadelphia because I want to keep my wallet.
Go do the tours. Go walk around and check out Independence Square and all those different places and the Bell and
Hear about the way they intended it to be.
yeah. Go watch the reenactments, listen to the dudes, watch the dudes that are dressed up. You'll feel real fucking good.
Now, what did you mean by that when you said the conversation about the how our constitutional rights are being eroded? Is that what you meant?
Literally every day something new comes out pointing at, look, there goes another right. Oh, look, there goes another right. And it's like every day there's something new. And still, all people are doing is talking about it. It's like, yeah, it's a bubble. It's a bubble effect. So we're all sitting here talking about a bubble that we know is going to pop, but nobody knows what it's going to look like when it does pop. I don't know.
Well, what scares me is all the people that are completely oblivious to it.
Well, I guess that's kind of what, hopefully that this will get some recognition. Maybe, people that watch it on YouTube or podcast will watch it, maybe think of something or hear something they weren't aware of and share it with a friend. I mean, word of mouth is a powerful form of advertisement, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's literally, I mean, let's do a little, like, I don't know what the technical name is, so keep it simple. Let's just do some simple math. I think you figure regularly every week, I'm going to guess there's probably about, let's say there's a group of about 500 that's involved on YouTube on these chats that are actually, like, on the panels and actually not afraid to put a comment in, So it's how many people does that 500 represent? Like, how many millions,
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. Last time I went to the big surplus store here in Southern Nevada, talking to the guy, real cool, family-owned store, got tons of cool shit. And so I love John his ear because I recommend any of you guys that think that nothing's up, go to a local surplus store and ask them the change in clientele over the last 3 years. It literally went from Alex Joneses and other people, just fucking way out there, right-wing paranoid dudes coming in and tacking out and buying this. They could never have enough. To literally, they are tacking up entire families from like ages 5 and up. There are people buying hiking boots, backpacks, bug out stuff. Like, it's literally it's doesn't it's people's instincts telling them we need to be prepared for something that we've never thought of before.
A lot of it has to do when we're talking about like the America of the past and whatnot, is that it's the internet for the most part, the past 15, 20 years, is that people are communicating on a level that's never been done before. Back in the day, it's only, your general area where you're from is your opinion you had, because you just didn't really seek somebody out unless you're that kind of guy that had family everywhere and you talk to them that often. The internet's really just evolved to more people's opinions, and that's where you're seeing this thing where people say, you're just full of gas, it's BS, the government's okay, or blah, blah, or this and that. In general, you're really blowing this out of proportion, you're sensationalizing it, and it's coming to prosper that there is a problem, and people are now, in masses, are not afraid to identify and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, so Wood, since I don't know how long you've been listening or watching, but since you're here, and then we just had Gun Websites join us as well for everybody out there that might be listening on the podcast. So the original, kind of what the catalyst was to this whole conversation was I asked the question that I've been thinking about was the when people say that the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, is a God-given right, and I just asked, is it truly a God-given right, or is it just defined by our Constitution? Because the United States is one of the only countries that I know of that has a Constitution that clearly defines the right to keep and bear arms.
Well, it's not a God-given right. It's not a God-given right. It's an agreement stated on a piece of paper. It's an agreement between men and women, whatever, to keep it fucking political. But you understand what I'm saying? But that agreement is what founded this country. But, like David said, and we've said all along, a piece of paper and an idea cannot defend itself. It's up to the people, and that's why the forefathers warned us. We will give you this, but it's up to you to defend it and hold on to it. It's like, go out and get a hot chick. The hardest part's, holding on to them. It's the same thing. Everybody's taking everything for granted. The Constitution cannot defend itself. It can't, and it's under attack by so many different things right now.
Did you just compare this whole thing to getting a hot chick?
Yeah, it's my nature. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Constitution's the hottest chick to ever live. Now you got to hold on to it. That requires work and effort.
Where are we booking her? Is this at a bar? Or?
I don't know. But I don't know what G-Webs is. Is Gun Channels G-Webs?
Oh, I don't know what account I'm on. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's G-Webs.
But a lot of it, like I said, goes back to that. Even though we're all from different parts of the country and we have different, sometimes little cultures in our communities and states and whatnot that are different, the access to the information is what's really opening up people's minds to investigate it and make their own opinion. Hopefully.
Let's hear from G-Webs. What do you think about that?
You cut me off, I suppose.
But what? Well, yeah. I don't know what the actual topic is, but I'm glad that you cut off Edge to bring me in, so I'm down with that.
Yeah, well, we heard Edge. We've heard Edge. You just got here, so I want to give you an opportunity to. Well, like I said, kind of constitutional law versus, and I guess you could really refer to anything in the Constitution where people say it's God-given rights, and I'm saying I think it's just it's a right, guaranteed to us by the Constitution. It's not necessarily, it doesn't mean you're necessarily born with that right. The Constitution that we have in the United States of America guarantees us those rights.
I guess that's one way to put it. I think that the forefathers thought that correctly that people are born as individuals free and that the Constitution wasn't going to bind them. So I don't know if the Constitution guarantees the rights, but it definitely states that the government is never going to interfere with them. It's like a warning to government to never intrude on our rights, right? And then they laid down a bunch of them, and they said anything else that ain't listed here is also a right. If I'm interpreting it right.
But to
Is
say
that
to say it's God-given, being naive, I think.
That's up to the people. If you're very religious and you want to think of it that way, that's awesome. If you're anti-religious, or like some people are, and you want to think of it as just your born rights, like your individual rights, and that's awesome. But they're basically ours when we're born, and in other countries, they're immediately stripped from you. I heard it put one way that some people like to think of our rights as software, and I think of them more as hardware. Like they're there. It's not something that is changeable or something that can be given or taken. They're there. All you can do is deny someone those rights.
Right. It's like the government's Norton.
Norton antivirus.
Antivirus for hot chicks.
For hot chicks, exactly.
Well, to me though, like to say it's God-given is naive. A God-given right to me is the right to breathe. You have the right to breathe, and no one can control that right of yours to breathe. You know, that's to me is a God-given right. When you're talking about the right to bear arms, that's to me is more of an agreement between certain people, and it's written in paper, and then from that piece of paper grew a country and a belief system. But with any other beliefs eventually have to be defended, because there will always be somebody that wants to take what you have or control what you have.
All right.
So,
I have a really, really weird analogy. Would you and I are in loincloths, I won't say naked, but we're in loincloths, face to face on a plane, and I have a table next to me that's got
I'll meet you right there.
a rock, a stick, a hammer, a sword, and a gun. And you come at me and you want to kill me. Okay? I have every right, in my opinion, if the intent is obvious that you're going to kill me because you're a bigger person than I am, you are more skilled at fighting or more athletic or anything.
Taller.
All of that stuff, exactly. Taller. Now, using morals, I'm probably going to not go right to the gun. I'm probably going to try to defend myself something that's going to hurt you and show you that it's not a good idea to try to kill me. But if you keep coming back, I'm going to go up the table. And I don't need any paper. I don't need any declaration from government. I don't need any declaration from a group of people if I'm living in a tribe. I don't need a declaration from anybody. So I think what people default to is God made me. That's all there really is to default to who gave me the right to do it other than me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I just have one question for you. Do you like gladiator movies, Tack Daddy?
Yeah. No.
All I could think of when you said we're on a plane in loincloths is Airplane, when he's asking the kid if he likes gladiator movies.
I was going to say, you and me are in a cornfield and we're naked.
You ever been in a Turkish prison, Timmy?
All right.
I don't know. That's just the way I ultimately break it down. I don't need anyone or anything to tell me, A, that I can defend myself, and A, to what degree and to what weapon. That's up to me. I got to live with those consequences. Now, if there's paper out there that says, you know what, you can defend yourself with everything up to X, Y, and Z, then there's, again, that's where we are, I guess, in the development of humans here on the timeline. We're at a point where some people are trying to say, you know what, you can use all those things on that table, but you can't use the gun, and here's why.
yeah, but isn't your analogy a little Neanderthalish when it's not? You got to throw having a civilized society in there too somewhere, don't you?
My point is I don't need that to illustrate my point that I don't need.
Well, I guess he got mad, huh?
Well,
That sounds like a computer glitch.
So
Yeah, it's a computer.
So
in a civilized society, you wouldn't have to do that.
So let's look at societies in general. And a lot of societies have started out with utopian ideals, but have ended up mass murdering their populations. Okay, so the guys who wrote our Constitution had seen this happen in the past because they were very intelligent men and very long students of history and learned a lot. So they said, okay, we have these certain rights, like the right to life. So our government shouldn't mass murder us. So how are we going to write this rule book to make it where they can't? See what I'm saying? So they put into it that, the no cruel and unusual punishment, jury by your peers, right to
no soldiers in your
bear
home.
arms. These are all stopgaps to keep a totalitarian government from taking away your natural rights.
The Constitution was a product of its time.
Right, and it's a product of the injustices done by civilizations prior to the one they were setting up. Do you see what I'm saying? They researched all these civilizations that did horrible things, and they wrote the Constitution to be something to stand in the way of the government doing those same mistakes.
Daddy just texted me his computer died, so he wasn't running scared.
Let me. Something I think that pertains here to exactly what I think the problem is and why we are able to have this discussion right now. I'm going to read a quote from Thomas Jefferson. It only takes a second. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Does that not sum up every debate, topic, talk, anything you could come up with in the United States for the last 50 years? It's exactly what it comes down
to. The price of vigilance is eternal freedom.
We've all been.
The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Yeah, that one.
No, but if you are, no, it works both ways. Because if you're vigilant, you'll be free. So yeah,
well,
it works both ways.
The Latin saying "Parabellum." If you wish for peace, prepare for war.
But if you're free, you won't necessarily be vigilant. You just
right,
be complacent.
And one of the things is they knew that true democracies, always failed. So that's why they set up as a republic. They wanted some democratic characteristics, but they wanted some things that just weren't on the table as options to be voted in. You know what I'm saying? So the masses couldn't vote in to steal people's food and to throw babies off cliffs. They wrote rules to avoid that as even being an option to vote on.
Did the babies have wings?
How many people in America? What's the population up to? Anybody?
330 million.
75 million.
350.
330.
350, 360.
330.
Well over 300 million.
Look at the task.
I just checked the other day.
We've got the task at hand of asking even 200 million of the 330 million to participate and care about what's going on in government. When you look at what the government's been doing for the last 50 years, they've been doing absolutely everything they can to distract you from paying attention to what they're doing. Just go, watch your sports, do this, do that, and they're writing law after law after law on top of law on top of law, writing more laws for this and that and this. So we're to the point where now the average law-abiding citizen commits 3 felonies a day. That's the latest statistic. You commit 3 felonies a day because somewhere some asshole wrote a law against something ridiculous. I mean, it's just gotten out of hand because nobody they're able to do whatever they want with no repercussion. The people don't care. They remain silent. They go to their game. They're still making, if they still make enough money to get by every week, then they're happy. They don't want to be bothered with the bigger problem. And the forefathers tried to warn us of that. Hey, if you don't watch these guys, they're going to take and take and take and take and take and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The next thing you know, we're going to be sitting right where we are right now. We're literally on the verge.
Yeah, our society has been in deterioration, and it's getting worse as it goes on, and it's increasing in speed.
Let's just.
What do you? I'm sorry, real quick. I was going to say while we're kind of on that topic of creating new laws and new restrictions, something I just asked right before you hopped in was, like this whole smart gun technology. I mean, is that an out and out infringement on the Constitution to require such a draconian law or rule for? It's kind of a gray area because they're not saying you can't own a firearm. They're just saying you have to own this firearm.
It's no different than saying you can't use brass cartridges or anything else. It's an infringement, and it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, they should be able to put the smart guns on the market, and if people want them, they just gives them another option to buy them. But by God, you shouldn't make anywhere where you have to have it. But we all look at. We're not stupid. We all know that's where it's going. We all know that.
Right, and the thing about the smart guns is it's a technology that a company developed. If they want to market it and sell it to people who willingly want to buy it, that's freedom. But making me buy something that I don't want, which again, not to get back into what happened a few years ago, but they're making people buy health coverage that they don't want, and they snuck it in as a tax, and they said it's not a tax, it's under this. They snuck it in under a bunch of BS. But no, it's never. The government does not have the right to tell me what I should or shouldn't buy. You know what I'm saying? I have freedom as an American citizen to buy what I want to buy. And if they're going to force me to buy a particular thing and cut out the other things, that's infringing on my rights. And that's what they've been doing for years.
Wait, are we talking about guns or healthcare?
Both.
Oh yeah, shit, anything. I mean, anything the government regulates.
If they want to tell me that I can't buy this car, but I have to buy this car, you know, I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing to remove something off the market, but to tell me what I can and can't buy. Like if they said, Nathan, you know, because of who you are, you have to go drive a little hybrid Prius. You can't buy the pickup truck, but Johnny Boy here, because he's rich, can buy that pickup truck because he's rich. That's an infringement.
I think any requirement by the government is ridiculous. It's a complete overreach of authority, and you know, not what our country was founded on. And you know, it's just a perpetual overreach of government that continues to exacerbate the problems that we have in this country. You know, and they just want to create new laws and throw money at a problem, or throw laws at a problem instead of fixing, you know, the true root cause of whatever it might be.
It's disgusting the way the government has taken the interstate commerce clause and thus gotten their tentacles into controlling everything that is bought and sold in this country.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have any right to control things bought and sold in this country.
But that's also their biggest weakness, because we can go, you know, if we wanted to, you're right, it's our job as individuals to come together and resist against the, you know, whatever the situation is. But because they've balanced everything on that, that's their keystone. If we get rid of that or challenge that, then that could make the whole oppressive part of it fall apart like a house of cards.
It has been challenged, and the Supreme Court has upheld it for whatever reasons, to stabilize the country.
Well, and that's just it. Why not enforce the laws we already have in place instead of just adding on new laws to try to fix, you know, if there's a problem, instead of, you know, addressing it at the source. They just want to pass new laws instead of enforcing the ones we already have.
That's not the way the machine and the juggernaut work, though. They can't regress. They always have to progress forward with new things.
Okay, was I the only one to drop?
No, we all dropped.
That was weird.
Well, now that
It's
we're
the NSA.
Trying to disband us.
The NSA, they wormed their way into the broadcast and shut us down because too much truth was coming out.
We're still alive.
By the way, it doesn't work because
I didn't say they were good.
It doesn't work that way as long as it makes sense. You know, our government can't make sense ever.
What the hell happened?
What the hell just happened?
Did that happen to everybody? Okay, good.
Yeah, I guess so.
happened to
What the hell
everyone.
happened?
They probably did an upgrade or whatever.
It's a glitch in the matrix.
We're talking
Oh,
about
yeah,
too many.
dude.
We're talking about too many sensitive things.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you guys
keywords.
heard me? What was the last thing you guys heard me say?
Something
I don't
about
know.
choking babies or being mean to a dog or something.
No, that was
You
weird.
should have the right to keep as many victims in your basement as you want, something like that.
Well, yeah, that's a given. Now, I was saying something about, did you hear, why the government just insists on creating new laws instead of enforcing the ones we already have?
It makes them look like they're doing something.
Yeah,
And
because
for,
that's easier. It's easier than enforcing them.
and for every 10 shitty laws that they write, they slip in a couple that are corporate. They're slanted towards the profit of corporations, not the people. There's an agenda and everything.
It's kind of like corporations, like he mentioned, like my corporation that I work for, and corporations I've worked for before. They're always coming up with the new ideas, and nobody can ever admit that they're just recycling the same old ideas over and over again. I'll see something come back up, and I'll be like, they did that 5 years ago. No, it's new. No, it's not. It's the same crap. It's just recycled. And that's what the government does. They come up with new laws over and over again, over and over again. It's a machine. It's a law-making machine. They can't just say, you know what, we're good. We're gonna take a break. We'll come back in 2 years and reevaluate. They can't do that.
I just checked on the American Warning Facebook page. It just posted Connecticut man charged with 49 counts of failure to register high-capacity magazines.
What?
Oh my God!
49 magazines that are over the
49 mags over the limit. Wow.
That is so dumb.
Well, he has 49 mags. He deserves to be ass raped 1 year in prison for every mag. That seems fair to me, right, guys?
That's crazy.
That man should go to federal pound me ass prison for 49 years because
that's just that's just like the whole Bundy thing. When they spent how much money to collect, and I'm just using hypothetical numbers because I'm not sure about the exact, but let's say he owes $1 million and they spent $5 million to collect $1 million. That's retarded. And it's the same principle with this whole the bands.
Because then you get rich guys going, okay, I can do anything I want, and if I can spend more than they can allot to this crime to chase me, then they win. Or you say, okay, somebody got murdered, but it's going to cost us $25 to find them. That's too much. We can only spend 20.
You have to realize the whole Bundy thing was.
Well, I guess when you put it like that, that does sound a little.
From the government's point of view, you got an agency who's sitting around, and in their view, it's not their money. They have unlimited resources.
Well, it's our money. It's our taxpayers.
Well, they don't care if it's your money.
The money isn't what they work on. They have money that, in the physical world, but their job, in theory, is to do what we ask of them. So, again, you've got to assume that government has to spend things, sometimes spend. I mean, look how much it costs to send. So let's put it in a different thing. A boat's going down they send the Coast Guard out. It costs $1 zillion to send the Coast Guard out to do that. Are we going to be like, oh no, that costs too much. That boat can sink. That's freaking totalitarian or communist or something. We're willing to waste money to do things sometimes because we're that kind of society.
And think about it this way: they have a certain budget. They decided, okay, it's time to go get this one particular fellow's cattle. Let's go do it. That's what they do, is they overspend money rustling cattle. Whether it's his or someone else's, they're always having to spend some money in some way. It's part of their budget. But the thing that's really ridiculous is it just got out in the news. What have these guys been doing all these other past years for the past 10 years? How many other people?
You mean the agents?
Yeah, the agents and the agency. Yeah. What have they been doing? What have they been up to? It's just, this is the only time I've ever even heard of them or it's ever been in the news, but they had to have been doing this to other people. But anyway, I mean, it's
we got to look at it from the side that we're able to have this discussion, and if the bureaucracy has gone corrupt or out of whack, then we can demand that they are held responsible to that, as individuals or as an agency altogether.
Oh, that reminds me. That's another point I wanted to bring up for G-Webs and for Wood here, because you guys weren't in here earlier. And I guess Wood, this would apply to you more directly. And this is total conjecture at this, speculation at this point. But I've heard rumors that they were trying to maybe go after some of the people that they could identify that were at the Bundy Ranch. and serve warrants for whatever trumped up charge or whatever violation they could say that they committed. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was kind of the first question, and that led to the fact that with the new domestic terrorist clause that an agent is able to detain any suspected terrorist indefinitely without rights to an attorney or to anything like that. So, what do you think about that?
I just posted in the internal the local news broadcast where that will solidify everything you just said. They had these bullshit cops, I think one sheriff department, one metro, get up there and talk about how scared they were for their lives and how uncomfortable they were and da-da-da-da-da, and painted this really ugly picture where if you watched the videos, the cops were all laid back, relaxed. When they were doing the negotiations at the gate with feds behind them with their guns and militia and protesters on the other side, the sheriff, the undersheriff, or whatever he was laughing and joking and totally relaxed. I mean, because they knew everybody there was being respectful. So, yes, and in that interview right there that I just posted on the internal, the cops are saying, the guy's exact words to the protesters out there, that type of behavior is unacceptable. So right there should be a red flag for every God-fearing, Constitution-loving American. Right there, you have law enforcement saying, for you to go out and defend your rights, your not God-given right, but your constitutional rights, is unacceptable. So what you said is true. They said there will be. They are going to try and persecute, and they've said that they're talking that they're waiting for things to calm down out there, and then the feds are going to come in and hammer that place, and probably arrest Bundy.
Dude, I said this the other day. I said they're going to go after Bundy and a bunch of the other people, and they're going to do it on some type of obstruction of justice charges. And they're going to say, we had warrants from a court to go do this, and these guys went out and stood in our way and threatened us. Obstruction of justice. That's not a trumped-up charge. That's what they're going to see them as having done.
Yeah, and but the ironic part is that to the law enforcement out there, I want to ask, where were you when the citizens of your county were being threatened and tased and had dogs sicked on them by a federal agency? Where were you? You know, who's the one that their behavior is unacceptable? I mean, how backwards are we right now? How upside down is this country? That should tell you right there. All these people were asking was, hey, sheriff, get these goddamn feds out of here and talk to us. And we'll tell you what our deal is and what's going on, but get these guys, this military assault force, out of here. Why are they here? I mean, does that seem right-wing extremist to any of you?
No, not at all. Not at all. And that's the thing. That's what I find so scary about this whole situation, and the fact that, and of course, I think I did know about this. It's not like I just heard about this tonight, but I think it just really hit home when we were talking about the fact that, at any point, it's so loosely defined as to domestic terrorist or suspicion of domestic terrorist that if any agency has got a hard-on for you or a particular group of people, that they could, fabricate or out and out lie or you know what I'm saying? They could just say, oh, I suspect him of being a domestic terrorist, and then they could detain you indefinitely. I mean, that's totally bullshit. That's against every fiber of our what the country was founded on and our Constitution. And now you're telling me because and where did you say that was from, Nathan? You said it was not from the Patriot Act, so it was from the what?
Oh, you mean putting people away? That was a rider on the Department of Defense bill a couple years ago, and they keep re-upping it every year. They basically the appropriations bill to pay for the Department of Defense and our military, they put it as a rider on that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you know, and like you said, that's a scary thought that at any moment you could be targeted and accused, you know, and it's scarier because under this law or under this, you know, whatever it is, however it's defined, that you can be held without representation, without a lawyer, without anything. So they could literally fucking just put you somewhere and throw away the key.
So, but Stone, do you see the irony here? You're a law enforcement officer. Who do you think they're going to be having do this shit?
Oh, I guarantee it wouldn't be local law enforcement.
Yeah, but where's is the local law enforcement just going to watch?
Well, no, that's the problem. I think
enforcement does stand back and watch the feds.
I think that's the ticket. We have no no authority over the feds. So if you know, and I think that kind of stuff when you're talking DOD and those kind of domestic terrorists, obviously that's not enforced or even investigated on a local level. So you're talking like a government agency, whatever division of government that addresses that issue.
I know, but it just shows that how effed up things are in this country right now is that the sheriff's department doesn't even know that they are king shit in their county. They don't even know it.
Well, there's a difference.
And they probably get money from the feds too. I mean, that's how you get someone in bed with you. Here's
the thing. There's a difference.
Their money supply.
I mean, everybody's aware that the sheriff's department and the sheriff is the only constitutional form of law enforcement that exists. Period. It is the only one. But the problem is we'd have no authority to intervene or to stop something like that from happening. I mean, if you're talking something on that big a scale, that they would come and take that person away. Hell, we wouldn't even have knowledge of that.
But see, I mean, and that's why I say there were so many things that went right for the Bundys. The simple fact that they had to round the cattle up, which means they had to hang around for a couple weeks because that's how long it was going to take, was the only way that anybody had a chance to react. And what you just said is scary, Stone, because if things were the way they were supposed to be, the sheriff would know because the feds would have to tell him before they come into his county. And then if the sheriff and the governor knew each other like they probably were supposed to, did he just leave?
No, I'm here.
If the sheriff and the governor and everybody were on a steady communication like they should be, then the governor can kick the federal government out of his state.
Well, and that's, I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, yeah, but I don't.
A constitutional world, you mean?
Well, there you go.
Right, and that's the problem is we don't live in a constitutional world. We live in a place where we have a constitution that has been reinterpreted and whittled away at for 250 years.
Yeah, because the feds at any point could come into your town and assume jurisdiction and take over a situation. And literally, I mean, while you might have, or the sheriff might have ultimate say-so or control or authority, right then and there, it's one of those things that it's not going to be. You're not going to figure it out right then and there. You're gonna, what's that word? You're gonna cower.
After it's all said and done, a year later, he's going to argue that, and somebody might say you're right.
Yeah,
but it's all said and done by then, and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, at that point, you're going to cower to the feds right there.
We have the theory of the Constitution. We have the reality of what we actually live in.
Well, I've had this. When I'm running over scenarios and stuff in my head, like come up with some crazy shit. But the same one keeps crossing my mind for some reason, that I really think that the very early stages, or maybe even the first shots of the second American Revolution, will be actually will be local law enforcement firing at federal agents, because federal agents are doing something like they were attempting to do with the Bundys, and you had a constitutionally minded sheriff that knew he was in the right, knew the feds were acting tyrannical, and there's no, had a military force acting on American citizens in his county. I mean, that's a very real scenario. You could really see the first shots of being fought between agencies.
I agree with you there. That's definitely a feasible situation.
Well, what I said, a week or two back, is I said that I foresee that right now they're continuing to have people be personal protection on the Bundy Ranch and everything. When all this settles down and those people go home and stop protecting them, there's just a federal prosecutor that's already written up and has a judge ready to sign off on it to put obstruction of justice
They've already
charges against the Bundys and send in agents to arrest them. But they don't want to do that and have a firefight and have another Ruby Ridge incident. They know that they can wait. I mean, hell, they waited 10 years to go and get his cattle. They can wait another couple months to go and nab him and throw him in jail.
The Bundy family already they've already got several lawyers on their side working pro bono, and they're already countering anything that the feds could come up with. So once again,
they can counter it, but the feds haven't brought it yet. They'll bring it, they'll arrest them, and then the attorneys have to get the Bundys out at that point.
The scariest thing for the freaking Bundys is the one that they're turning to, like pleading with, which is the sheriff of their county, is already bought and paid for. That guy's already got a high-paying job in the DHS waiting for him. He's bought and paid for.
You know what county they live in, don't you?
I live in the same county.
Isn't it the same county Las Vegas is in?
Yes.
Yeah, so the sheriff in the county that has Las Vegas, he's up in Vegas. He's not going to give a rat's ass.
Is that Clark County?
Yeah.
Clark County.
He's a sheriff of a major metropolitan city in Nevada, the biggest city in Nevada. He's not going to mess with a rancher.
And you know what's funny is if you look at the map of how the government still controls 84.5% of the state of Nevada. If you look at a map and you zoom in on Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas is not in government control. So the state still collects all the tax revenue from that little tiny chunk in the desert, but they frickin' surrounded by federal land. Interesting little factoid. Well, I mean, the state's got to make money somehow. That's getting off topic, but you got to wonder, how has a state been able to survive so long if 84.5% of it is federal land? Where are they getting their funding to even survive as a state?
Probably from the feds, right? I think that's what keeps a lot of states from seceding. Is that the correct way to say that? Seceding.
Yeah, leaving.
Because they do depend on so much government aid, federal funding for different municipal sources and all sorts of things. I mean, obviously, I think Texas thinks they could be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and I think there's a couple other states that want to do it and think they don't need anything from the federal government, but that's where the federal government's kind of got you by the balls, because they know that you need them to a large extent.
And that's not the way it's supposed to be. I mean, just came out today, the federal government issues a warning to the state that wants to opt out of the Common Core curriculum in the schools. And what is that? In other words, what does that say? You want to opt out of our government-approved curriculum? Then bye-bye federal funding.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is the chokehold we were talking about. That I guarantee you, before this is over, the states are going to have to learn how to be sustainable on their own for a while before this gets better. The only way to rebuild it.
Well, I think that's a good note to wrap this up. We've been going for almost 2 hours. And had a pretty good chat. Stayed on somewhat on topic, and I got to get to bed. So, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight and hanging out. And if, as always, we've got the Gun Channels has started a 24-hour lobby chat. So obviously, if you're listening to this on podcast, it's not going to matter to you. But for anybody on YouTube that wants to go chat or continue chatting, you can go into Gun Channels and there'll be a chat going there.
We Like Shooting is about to start their show too.
Damn, they're starting late.
Yeah, they do theirs later. But it's also on Gun Channel, so just flip whatever tab you want.
Cool deal. All right, guys. Well, again, I appreciate everybody tuning in and participating, and we'll see you next time.